Okay, I get it. You're not like us. You don't like us. Hey guys, it's been a few weeks. I am happy to be back with this video, which is, I feel like going to be very cleansing, very cathartic, because I just feel like I need to vent, you know? And I feel like you guys are always down for that, for me to vent and for you guys to join in and we can complain together. This, as you can tell from the title, is going to be 10 non-vegan things that annoy me. Some of them are, you know, things that people specifically do, or some of them are just kind of sentiments, non-vegan sentiment in the world at large. It's not like, I hate that people eat meat, like, because that's, you know, I think that's like a given if you're vegan. There are 10 and I had no trouble coming up with 10. In fact, I could have kept going, but at some point I had to cap it. The first few you'll see are about restaurants and servers, and I just want to say that I was a server for a very long time. I have the utmost empathy for and understanding of what it is like to be a server. It is one of the most difficult jobs. I totally believe those, you know, theories that are like everybody should have to be a server at least once in their lives because it teaches you so much about humankind in general. But I think because I have that experience in the restaurant industry, I sort of know the kind of standards and the expectations of just what good service is in general, and I think that is often something that you can control. So there's my disclaimer, and let's get started. We gotta get this one out of the way because so many other things are gonna relate back to this one. The number one non-vegan thing that annoys me is when restaurants don't clearly label the menu. This is something that is so easy and would save just across the board for everyone involved so much time, so much effort, so much concern. Literally, here's what it takes. The manager of the restaurant or the owner of the restaurant sitting down with the chef and just going through the menu once and being like, hey chef, does this have this or that? Okay, great, this is vegan, this isn't. VO for like vegan option can be made vegan, so helpful. Don't get me started on the V label. I actually made a TikTok about this a long time ago, but when a restaurant just writes V and I'm like, who is that helping? First of all, I don't know if that means vegan or vegetarian. I'm assuming it means vegetarian. Secondly, I don't even think that really helps vegetarians because it's kind of obvious just from looking at the menu what is and isn't vegetarian. But when the restaurant doesn't put a little, what's it called, a legend of what everything is, like I love when it's like V equals vegetarian, VGN equals vegan. Great, that's so helpful. We have to sit there and waste the server's time asking questions. Then the server has to go and double check with the chef. Those little interactions, I'm sure, add up on a daily basis quite a bit. I read a quote in an article once that I really liked, which was, everyone knows that the vegan picks the restaurant. That's what I feel like is so frustrating a lot of times with this stuff with restaurants is I'm like, I want to give you my money. I'm not even asking restaurants to change their menu, but just clearly label what's already on your menu. Thank you. I'm only on the first one and I'm already getting so worked up. Number two relates closely to number one, which is, and here we go with the server ones. When the server doesn't know for sure, let's say you ask like, hey, does this have any dairy in it? And they don't know, and then their response is,
I don't think so.
Could you check? Not every server should have to know every single ingredient in every single dish. When it's a common allergen, I tend to think though that like maybe they should. The proper response, in my opinion, is to be like, you know, I'm not positive, I don't wanna tell you the wrong answer, so let me go check with the chef and make sure. That inspires confidence because as vegans, we have been, it's like that meme, who hurt you? We have so little trust, I feel like, in non-vegan restaurants in general. Anything a server can do to help you feel confident or to inspire that trust that they're not going to mess, you know, your order up, that just goes so far. So number three is also server related, and it's happened to me a few times in the last year. It's when you ask a server to point out to you what's vegan or non-vegan, and they actually know, which is great, but then they'll go, is honey okay? It's fine for them to ask if you eat honey or not, because I guess their experience is that a lot of vegans are like, or people who ask for things to be vegan are like, yeah, that's fine, honey's fine. To me, it's the sort of assumption that honey's okay. Like, vegan does mean something. There is a definition. There is sort of a set of rules. So it's like when a server or really anyone just assumes that you eat honey and then you're like, no, I don't. And then it's like a little, like they're kind of annoyed, but it's like, you should just assume that I don't. Number four is people implying or sort of the general notion that veganism is a choice. Almost that like you're choosing to make things difficult by being vegan, because as I'm sure most vegans will agree, veganism does not feel like a choice at all. It feels like a thing that we have to do once we know the truth about the animal agriculture industries. I have a little story to go with this one. So there's a restaurant near where my parents live, and they're known for having a lot of gluten-free options, which at one point when I was vegetarian and not vegan, I had a gluten-free phase. I guess I didn't eat gluten for a while, so I think that's when my mom and I started going there. But they also have vegan options, which is amazing. So I was there with my mom, probably back in 2015, really close to when I went back to being vegan. The server was great, she was very accommodating. And then after she took our order, I overheard her having a conversation with another server. Obviously, they didn't think that they could be heard. They were clearly just talking about like, oh, I have a vegan guest. I think it was our server said to the other server, isn't it interesting how when the gluten-free sort of movement started, restaurants were so quick to start having gluten-free options, but people still don't have that many vegan options, which is a really interesting observation that I have made before too. And the other server's answer to that was, well, yeah, I think that's because vegan is a choice and gluten-free isn't. That to me really stood out, because it was like, whoa, gluten is something that some people are actually allergic to, but it's also something else that I think a lot of other people just hopped on the bandwagon and decided to do, like me. But the sentiment that veganism is a choice and therefore shouldn't be accommodated as much, or is an explanation for why it isn't accommodated as much, I just found to be, sad because I think that is the common sort of sentiment around it. Also, I think it's because gluten, eating or not eating gluten, doesn't really threaten the status quo of the enormous issue of animal agriculture and how we treat animals. And that doesn't border on like morality at all. So people are that much more keen to accommodate it or willing to accommodate it because it's just like, oh, it's just a little dietary thing. But veganism is such a thing that has so much weight, and it's just a much heavier topic. Okay, number 5, this is a little quick short one, but just something that annoys me. People assuming that just because you're vegan, you are happy with a meal of vegetables. There have been times, even with my mom, where we're out at a restaurant, like the only option for me is a salad, and I'm like, I don't want to just eat a salad for dinner. And she's like, well, I don't get it. Like, I thought you were vegan. I thought you liked vegetables. I thought that was the whole thing. Like, I don't get it, this whole thing. I like vegetables. I would say I don't really like them any more or less than the average person. I'm not vegan because I love vegetables. I'm vegan because I don't want to eat meat or animal products and contribute to animal suffering. So I still need full balanced meals with like protein and carbs and to taste delicious and be filling. I don't want a meal with just vegetables. And unfortunately, that is kind of the predominant vegan option across the board still. Number 6, food labels claiming that they're plant-based when they're not vegan. So plant-based is, a new-ish word in terms of like the history of the vegan movement. We haven't really as a society done a good job of clearly defining what that means. To me, that means in terms of dietary wise, that means vegan. Now, I know not morality wise, but in terms of plant-based food, to me, should be exactly the same as vegan food. But a lot of people just like to be like, well, it's got plants in it, so plant-based. I bought a plant-based salami once, and then in the car on the way home, we realized that it had egg white in it. That, I think companies should get like fined for that, honestly. But then 6B, this is kind of like the opposite, but it's happened to me before. I think it's kind of funny. So 6B is when restaurants claim to be plant-based. Like, it's like, this is a plant-based restaurant. We're 100% plant-based. And then when you check with them, like, so just to make sure, is everything here vegan? And they get annoyed. They're like, yeah, plant-based, yeah. It's kind of like two sides of the same coin. Like, on one hand, companies are taking plant-based to mean whatever they want it to be, and then on the other hand, people get annoyed when you like double check. But again, we have been burned, we have been hurt, so we just want to be sure. Number 7, this one is so annoying. Restaurants needlessly putting animal ingredients in things that you would think would be vegan or vegetarian. So a good example of this, and actually how I thought to put this one on the list, was that I was on Reddit, a post from vegetarian subreddit popped up, and it was people complaining that Panera Bread puts, I think it was chicken stock in the broccoli cheddar soup. Putting chicken stock in a soup that is kind of like a standard vegetarian soup. Another example of this, when I was in high school, this is also involving Panera Bread. So Panera Bread, like, get your shit together. But one of my best friends in high school was vegetarian. She was always having so many issues when we would go out to eat, and I felt so bad. I remember Panera Bread opened in my hometown. We were all obsessed with it. We all loved it. They had a black bean soup on the menu, and she loved black bean soup, and she wanted to get it, but they put bacon in their black bean soup. This was so long ago. I don't even know if they have black bean soup anymore, but things like that. Why would you put bacon in black bean soup? Leave that shit out. Number 8, when restaurants, okay, Thai restaurants, consider fish sauce or oyster sauce to be vegetarian or vegan. So there's actually a Thai restaurant near where we live, and they actually have their menu separated vegetarian and vegan, which is amazing. But I remember I called one time and there was like a red curry on the vegetarian menu, but it wasn't on the vegan menu. And I was like, why isn't the red curry vegan? And the guy was like, oh, because it has fish sauce in it. And I was like, but fish sauce isn't vegetarian. And the guy was like, oh, well, we just went by what the internet said, so that's just what we do. And I was like, what? Like, what do you mean the internet? Like, where did you find this? And then a little subcategory of this is when a restaurant will be like, oh, if we do add it, it's just a little bit, you can barely even taste it. Then why are you adding it? It's not necessarily about the taste, although I hate the taste of fish, and that's really a big thing for me. It's more about the principle of we don't want to eat this food item. But secondly, yeah, if you can barely taste it, why are you adding it? Number 9. So this one is kind of hard to explain, but hopefully you guys will know what I'm talking about. When a restaurant is labeled vegan when it's not. So this has happened to me a lot when I've been traveling and I go on, DoorDash or Grubhub and I search for vegan and a restaurant comes up and like one of the first few results. And not only is it not a vegan restaurant, but doesn't even have designated vegan options. It'll be like a pizza place and the only option is like, a build your own pizza or a salad. If a restaurant doesn't have clearly labeled vegan options, I have so little faith that they're actually going to take my vegan order or request seriously. Because if this is something that they took seriously or cared about, then they would have already put it on their menu. In this day and age, if you're like not even going to acknowledge our existence, I don't really want to order food from your restaurant. Number 10 is when people say things like, for once I agree with PETA on this. Just that kind of sentiment of like, I need everyone to know that I am not vegan and that I do not agree with PETA, but on this one thing I do. Okay, I get it. You're not like us. You don't like us. So for example, someone saying about a vegan product like, I'm a huge meat eater and I hate like most vegan stuff, but like this I actually really like. It's almost like a weird reverse psychology, like you're actually really helping us out a lot, because I could see how that could be a strategy of getting other people on board who are like, yeah, like I normally hate PETA too, or like I normally hate vegan food too. Like, okay, cool, then I might like this. So actually, as much as it kind of annoys me, I'm also sort of like, thank you, because at the end of the day, you're still agreeing with me or with us on this, and that's exciting. It's just another example of, very anti-vegan sentiment at play, and it's a reminder of how far we still have to come in terms of perception of veganism, of vegan food, of animal rights organizations, etc. Oh God, there's like so many other things I could have included on this list. I think I'm gonna need to make a part 2 of this video. So that's my list. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope that you could relate to some of it, or some of it gave you a smile or made you feel less alone, that we're all in this non-vegan world together that is changing, thankfully, but at a very slow rate. So thanks for watching. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Please subscribe to my channel if you want more of my content. Really helps me out. Thumbs up helps me out too, and the algorithm notification bell helps me out a lot. So thank you, and I'll see you next time. Bye.